Welcome back to our English Corner, everyone, and thank you for spending the next half hour with us. I'm Alex, and as always, I'm here with my good friend Mia. Today, we're talking about something every single one of us experiences, no matter where we live relationships. And we want to start right at the very beginning, with that first moment when you meet someone new. I find first impressions absolutely fascinating because they happen in just a few seconds, but they can stay with us for years.
That's so true, Alex. And it's lovely to be here again. When I meet someone for the first time, I usually notice their energy before I even hear their words. Maybe it's the way they smile, or whether they make eye contact, or how they shake your hand. But here's the interesting part. I've learned that a first impression can be completely wrong, which is why I try not to judge too quickly. A first impression just means the opinion you form about a person in the first few minutes.
Exactly, and I think that's a really important point for our listeners. I remember when I met one of my closest friends, I honestly thought he was a bit cold and unfriendly. He didn't talk much, he seemed serious, and I assumed we would never get along. But it turned out he was just shy, and once he relaxed, he became one of the funniest people I know. So that taught me that being quiet doesn't mean someone is unfriendly. Sometimes they're simply nervous.
Oh, I love that story because the same thing happened to me at a new job. There was a woman in my office who never smiled, and I thought she didn't like me at all. For weeks, I felt uncomfortable around her, although I tried to be polite and warm. Then one day, we got stuck in an elevator together and we started talking, and she was actually kind and gentle. The lesson I took from that is simple: give people a second chance because the first chance is often not enough.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And it makes me think about how we can make a good first impression ourselves. For me, the biggest thing is to actually listen, instead of just waiting for my turn to speak. When you ask someone a question and really pay attention to their answer, they feel valued and comfortable. A small phrase like, "Tell me more about that," can make a conversation feel warm and open. So if our listeners want one practical tip today, I'd say, be curious about other people.
Yes, and I'd add one more thing because it's something that has helped me a lot. Try to remember the person's name and use it, even just once during the conversation. When you say, "It was great talking to you, Daniel," the other person feels seen and respected. It sounds small, but names are powerful, and forgetting them can feel a little cold. Of course, we all forget names sometimes, so don't worry too much if it happens.
That's honest, and I think it takes the pressure off our listeners who get nervous meeting new people. Because the truth is, almost everyone feels a little anxious when they meet a stranger. The other person is usually just as nervous as you are, even if they hide it well. So instead of trying to look perfect, just try to be kind, relaxed, and genuine. A genuine person, by the way, is someone who is real and honest, not pretending to be something else.
Right. And being genuine is what actually creates a real connection later on. So to sum up this first chapter, first impressions are fast, powerful, but not always correct. Be curious, listen carefully, use the person's name, and give people a second chance. And remember, the goal isn't to impress everyone, the goal is to find people you truly click with. To click with someone means to connect easily and feel comfortable together very quickly.
So let's move from that first meeting to what often comes next, which is friendship. I think friendship is one of the most underrated relationships in our whole lives. We talk a lot about romantic love, but a good friend can support you for decades. The interesting question for me is, how does a stranger slowly become a real friend? Because it doesn't happen in one day. It happens through many small moments over time.
I completely agree, and I think the secret ingredient is shared experiences. When you do things together, like cooking, traveling, or even just laughing at a silly joke, you build memories. And those memories become the foundation of the friendship, almost like bricks in a wall. I have a friend I met 15 years ago, and we became close because we took a difficult class together. We helped each other study, we complained about the homework, and somehow that struggle made us closer.
That makes a lot of sense, because going through something hard together really bonds people. But I also think there's a moment when a friendship gets deeper, and that's when you start to open up. To open up means to share your real feelings and personal things you don't tell everyone. At first, you talk about safe topics like the weather, movies, or your favorite food. But true friendship begins when you can say, "Honestly, I'm having a really hard week," and they listen.
Yes, that vulnerability is so important. although it can also feel a little scary. Being vulnerable means showing your weak or sensitive side, which takes a lot of trust. I remember the first time I told my friend about a problem in my family, and my heart was racing. But she didn't judge me at all. Instead, she just listened and said, "Thank you for trusting me." And after that moment, our friendship felt completely different, much stronger and more honest.
That's a perfect example. And it shows that good friends create a safe space for each other. Another thing I've noticed is that real friends show up, especially when life gets difficult. Anyone can celebrate with you when things are going well, and everyone is happy. But a true friend is the one who calls you when you're sad, or helps you move house on a rainy day. There's a lovely saying in English, a friend in need is a friend indeed, which means a real friend helps in hard times.
Oh, I love that saying, and it's so true in real life. At the same time, I think we have to be careful not to take our friends for granted. To take someone for granted means to stop appreciating them because you assume they'll always be there. Life gets busy, we forget to call, and slowly a close friendship can fade away without us noticing. So I try to send a simple message sometimes, just to say, "I was thinking about you. How are you?"
That small effort really matters, and honestly, it doesn't cost much time at all. I also think it's okay for friendships to change as we grow older and our lives go in different directions. Some friends are with you for a season, and some are with you for a lifetime, and both are valuable. You might lose touch with someone for a few years, but a real friend, you can pick up right where you left off. To lose touch means to stop communicating, usually not on purpose, but because life pulls you apart.
Exactly. And to pick up where you left off means to continue easily, as if no time had passed. I have a friend like that. We only talk twice a year, but every time it feels warm and natural. So, for our listeners, my advice is to nurture your friendships, but also to be gentle with yourself. You can't be a perfect friend to everyone, but you can be a present, caring friend to a few people. And those few deep friendships will give you more happiness than 100 shallow ones.
Beautifully said, Mia, and I think that's the heart of this chapter. Friendship grows through shared experiences, honesty, and showing up when it counts. Open up slowly, build trust, and never take the people you love for granted. And remember, quality matters far more than quantity when it comes to real connections. Now let's move on to a topic that makes a lot of people nervous and excited at the same time.
Yes, dating and falling in love, the topic everyone secretly wants to talk about. I think this is where the language of relationships gets really colorful and fun in English. For example, when you like someone romantically, we often say you have a crush on them. A crush is that early, exciting feeling when you can't stop thinking about a particular person. Your heart beats faster, you get a little nervous, and suddenly they seem absolutely wonderful.
Oh, the crush stage is so dramatic, and I remember it well from when I was younger. You start checking your phone every 5 minutes, hoping they sent you a message, and when they finally do, you stare at it for an hour, trying to write the perfect reply. There's another nice phrase here. When you start dating someone, we say you go out with them. To go out with someone means to date them, to be in a romantic relationship in the early stages. Oh.
Exactly. And the first date is such a special and slightly terrifying moment, isn't it? I remember my first date with my husband. I changed my outfit about 4 times before leaving the house. We went to a small cafe, and at the beginning, there were these awkward silences where nobody knew what to say. But then we discovered we both loved the same old movies. And after that, the conversation just flowed. When we say the conversation flowed, we mean it became easy and natural, without uncomfortable pauses.
That's such a relatable story because everyone fears those awkward silences on a first date. But I always tell people that a little awkwardness is completely normal and even charming. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be yourself and stay curious about the other person. And here's an important idea. Pay attention to how someone treats other people, not just you. If they're rude to a waiter but sweet to you, that tells you something real about their character.
That's wonderful advice, Alex, and it's something I wish I had known when I was younger. Now, falling in love is different from a crush because it's deeper and it grows over time. A crush is fast and exciting, but love is calmer, stronger, and built on real understanding. When you fall in love, you start to care about that person's happiness as much as your own. And the beautiful thing is, you begin to accept them completely, including their little flaws and habits.
Yes, and I think that's the real test of love, accepting someone's imperfections with kindness. At the beginning of a relationship, everything feels magical. and you barely notice any problems. We sometimes call this the honeymoon phase, when everything about your partner seems perfect. But after a while, you start to see that they leave dishes in the sink or talk too much in the morning. And real love is choosing to stay and care even after the magic calms down into something steady.
That's so true. And honestly, that steady love is even more beautiful than the early excitement. I'd also like to mention that there's no single right timeline for falling in love. Some people feel it in a few weeks, and others need many months, and both are perfectly fine. Don't compare your own love story to the ones you see in movies or on social media. Real relationships are slower, messier, and far more wonderful than any film could ever show.
I love that reminder because social media can make us feel like we're behind in life. But love isn't a race, and there's no prize for falling the fastest or marrying the youngest. Another phrase our listeners might enjoy is to hit it off, which means to like each other immediately. When you meet someone and you both feel a spark right away, we say they really hit it off. A spark in this case is that exciting feeling of chemistry and connection between two people.
Perfect. And chemistry is one of those mysterious things you can't really force or plan. Sometimes you meet a person who looks perfect on paper, but the spark just isn't there. And other times you meet someone unexpected and suddenly your whole world feels brighter. So, my advice for this chapter is to stay open, be patient, and don't give up on love. The right person is worth waiting for, and the journey itself can teach you so much about yourself.
Beautifully said. And that's a lovely place to pause before our next chapter. So remember, a crush is the exciting start, falling in love is the deeper journey, and chemistry can't be forced. Be yourself on dates, accept people's flaws, and don't compare your story to anyone else's. Now, of course, even the strongest love faces challenges, and that brings us to communication. Because how we talk to each other can either build a relationship up or slowly tear it down. So let's be honest, every relationship, no matter how loving, will have disagreements sometimes. And I think a lot of people are afraid of conflict because they believe it means something is wrong. But actually, a healthy disagreement can make a relationship stronger if you handle it the right way. The problem isn't that we disagree. The problem is how we talk to each other when we disagree. So today I really want us to share some practical phrases and ideas that our listeners can use.
I'm so glad we're talking about this, because communication truly is the heart of every relationship. One thing I've learned over the years is the difference between I statements and you statements. When you say, "You never listen to me," the other person immediately feels attacked and defensive. But when you say, "I feel a little ignored when you check your phone," it sounds gentle and honest. I statements describe your own feelings, while you statements often sound like blame and criticism.
That's such a powerful tool, and it really does change the whole tone of a conversation. I also think timing matters a lot because some moments are simply terrible for serious talks. If your partner just got home from a stressful day, that's probably not the best time to raise a big issue. Instead, you can say, "Can we talk about something later when you have a bit of energy?" That small sentence shows respect, and it gives the other person space to prepare emotionally.
Yes. And I'd add that listening is just as important as speaking, maybe even more important. There's a beautiful idea called active listening, which means really focusing on what the other person says. Instead of planning your response, you listen fully, and then you repeat back what you heard. For example, you might say, "So you're feeling stressed because I forgot our plans. Is that right?" When someone feels truly heard and understood, half of the argument often disappears immediately.
That's so true, because most of the time, people just want to feel understood, not to win. And speaking of winning, I think that's a trap many couples fall into during an argument. They start trying to win the fight, instead of trying to solve the problem together as a team. But in a relationship, if one person wins and the other loses, then honestly, you both lose. The goal should always be us against the problem, not me against you.
I love that phrase, "us against the problem," because it changes how you see the whole conflict. Another thing that really helps is knowing when to take a break during a heated argument. When emotions get too strong, we often say things we don't mean and later regret. So it's perfectly okay to say, "I need 10 minutes to calm down, and then let's continue talking." To calm down means to relax and let your strong emotions settle so you can think clearly again.
That's a wonderful tip because trying to solve a problem while you're angry rarely works well. And once everyone is calmed down, I think the most powerful words are, I'm sorry. A genuine apology can heal so much, but it has to be real, not just a quick word to end the fight. A good apology sounds like, I'm sorry I hurt you. I understand why you were upset, and I'll try to do better. Notice that it includes understanding and a promise, not just the words I'm sorry.
Exactly. And it's equally important to be able to forgive when someone apologizes to you. Holding on to old arguments is like carrying a heavy bag everywhere. It just makes you tired. To hold a grudge means to stay angry about something for a long time, even after it's over. Forgiveness doesn't mean you forget what happened, but it means you choose to let go and move forward. And honestly, forgiving someone is often a gift you give yourself, not just the other person.
That's a beautiful way to look at it. And it applies to friendships and family too, not only romance. I think the key message of this chapter is that disagreements are normal and even healthy. What matters is staying respectful, using IT statements, listening actively, and apologizing sincerely. Remember that you're on the same team, and the problem is the enemy, not your partner. And when things get too hot, take a break, calm down, and come back with a kinder heart.
Perfectly summarized, Alex, and I hope these phrases really help our listeners in real life. Because the way we communicate doesn't just affect one conversation, it shapes the whole relationship over time. Small habits like saying thank you or apologizing well add up to a strong and loving connection. So practice these little phrases even when it feels awkward at first because it gets easier with time. Now let's move into our final chapter, which is all about commitment and the future.
So here we are at our final chapter, and I think it's the perfect way to bring everything together. We've talked about meeting people, building friendships, falling in love, and communicating well. Now let's talk about commitment, which means choosing to stay with someone and build a future together. Commitment can sound a little scary because it means making a long-term promise to another person. But I actually think commitment is one of the most beautiful and brave things a human being can do.
I agree completely. And I think commitment is really a daily choice, not just one big decision. People imagine that you commit once, on your wedding day or some special moment, and then it's finished. But in reality, you choose your partner again and again every single ordinary morning. You choose them when you make their coffee, when you forgive a small mistake, when you stay patient. So commitment isn't one giant promise, it's 1,000 tiny promises kept over many years.
That's a gorgeous way to describe it. And it takes the fear out of the word commitment. And it's not only about romance because we commit to friends and family members too. Staying in touch with an old friend, calling your parents, being there for people, those are all forms of commitment. I think the people who are happiest in life are usually the ones with strong, lasting relationships. Money and success are wonderful, but at the end of the day, we remember the people we love.
That's so true. And there's a lot of research that actually supports exactly what you just said. Studies that followed people for many decades found that close relationships keep us happier and healthier. It wasn't fame or fortune that mattered most. It was the warmth of our connections with other people. So if I could give our listeners one big piece of advice today, it would be this: invest in your relationships. To invest in something means to give your time, energy, and attention because you believe it's worth it.
I love that, and I think this is a great moment to recap some of the useful phrases we've learned today. In Chapter 1, we talked about first impressions and how to click with someone means to connect easily. In Chapter 2, we learned to open up, which means to share your real feelings with someone you trust. And we also learned to take someone for granted, which means to stop appreciating the people we love. These phrases are simple, but they describe some of the deepest parts of being human.
Yes. And in Chapter 3, we had so many fun expressions about dating and romance. We learned to have a crush on someone, which is that early, exciting, nervous feeling of attraction. We learned to hit it off, which means to like each other right away and feel a natural connection. And we talked about the honeymoon phase, that magical early time when everything seems perfect. Real love, as we said, is what comes after the magic, when you accept someone's little flaws.
And then, in Chapter 4, we shared some of the most practical tools for handling disagreements. We learned about I statements, which describe your feelings instead of blaming the other person. We talked about active listening, repeating back what you heard so the other person feels understood. And we learned to hold a grudge, which means staying angry for a long time, and why it's better to let go. Remember the phrase we loved most: it should be us against the problem, not me against you.
Those phrases are the kind of thing you can actually use in your real life, starting today. And I think the most beautiful lesson from this whole episode is that relationships take effort and care. Nothing good comes automatically. Friendship, love, and trust all need to be watered like a garden. But if you give them your time and your honesty, they will give you joy, support, and meaning in return. So be patient with people, be patient with yourself, and never stop trying to connect.
That's a wonderful note to end on, Mia, and I feel like I learned a lot myself today. To everyone listening, thank you so much for spending this time with us. It truly means a lot. Try to use one or two of these phrases this week, maybe with a friend, a partner, or a family member. And don't worry about making mistakes, because mistakes are simply part of learning and growing. Remember, every great relationship started with two people who were once complete strangers.
What a perfect thought to leave with our listeners, Alex. So go out there, smile at someone new, call an old friend, and tell the people you love that you appreciate them. Practice your English, but more importantly, practice kindness, patience, and honesty. Thank you all for joining us in our English Corner. We've loved having you here. Until next time, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep learning every single day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our English Corner. I'm so happy you're here with us again today because we have a really warm topic. Today, we're going to talk about longevity, which is a long word that simply means living a long life. But it's more than just that, and I think you'll enjoy where this conversation goes. So make yourself comfortable, get a cup of tea, and let's slow down and talk.
Thank you, Alex, and hello to everyone listening. I love this topic because it's something every single one of us cares about, isn't it? We all have people we love, and we all secretly hope they stay with us for a long, long time. And of course, we hope the same for ourselves, too. So, today we're asking a beautiful question. How can we live not just longer, but also better?
That's exactly the heart of it, Mia, because here's an important difference I want everyone to understand from the very start. There is a word called lifespan, which means the total number of years that you live. And then there is another word, health span, which means the number of years you live in good health. So lifespan is how long you live, and health span is how long you live well. And those two things are not always the same.
Yes, and that difference really matters in real life. Imagine someone who lives to 90 years old, which sounds wonderful at first. But maybe the last 20 years were full of pain, hospitals, and not being able to do the things they loved. Now imagine another person who also lives to 90, but stays active, walks every day, and laughs with friends. Both people had the same lifespan, but very different health spans, and that second life sounds much richer to me.
That's such a clear way to explain it. So when we talk about longevity today, we don't just mean adding more years to your life. We mean adding more life to your years, if that makes sense. There's a simple way to say it that I really love. We want good years, not just more years. And honestly, that small change in thinking changes everything about how we look at our health.
It really does. And here is the most hopeful part of all. A lot of people believe that how long they live is mostly decided by their genes, the things we get from our parents. But research suggests that our daily habits and our environment play a much bigger role than most of us imagine. That means we have more control than we think, which I find incredibly encouraging. The small choices you make today, again and again, can shape the health of your future self.
I love that because it takes away the feeling of helplessness. We're not just waiting to see what happens to us, we can actually take part in the story. And nobody is saying you need to become perfect overnight, so please don't worry about that. Today, we're just going to share simple ideas that research links to a longer, healthier life. And one quick but important note before we go further, Mia.
Yes, please say it, because it matters. Everything we talk about today is general healthy living, the kind of thing supported by research. We are not doctors, and this is not medical advice for any one person. So if you have a real health worry or you take medicine, please talk to your doctor first. Think of us as two friends sharing hopeful ideas, not as people giving you a treatment plan.
Perfectly said. So, with that warm and honest start, let's begin our journey. And our first stop is one of the most fascinating things I've ever read about. There are certain places in the world where living to 100 is almost normal. Mia, please tell everyone about these amazing places.
Oh, I've been waiting to talk about this because it's truly amazing. Some years ago, researchers noticed something strange and beautiful around the world. There were a few small regions where people were living much longer than average, and many reached 100 years old. A researcher named Dan Buettner studied these places carefully, and he gave them a special name. He called them blue zones, and the name has stayed with us ever since.
Blue zones. What a lovely name. And a quick word for our listeners. A blue zone is simply an area where unusually many people live very long and healthy lives. And there's another useful word here, too. A person who reaches 100 years old is called a centenarian. In most of the world, centenarians are rare, but in the blue zones, they are surprisingly common.
Exactly. And let me tell you where these blue zones are, because they're spread all over the planet. The first is Okinawa, a group of islands in Japan, famous for its long living women. The second is Sardinia, a beautiful island in Italy with many old shepherds in the hills. The third is Ikaria, a quiet Greek island where people seem to forget to die, as the joke goes. And the fourth is Nicoya, a sunny peninsula in Costa Rica with strong, happy older people.
That's four, but I think there's a fifth one, and it's a bit of a surprise. The fifth blue zone is actually in the United States, in a town called Loma Linda in California. There, a particular community lives a calm, careful, faith-based life. And research showed that some people in Loma Linda lived several years longer than other Americans around them. So this isn't only about faraway islands. It can happen anywhere, even close to a big modern city.
That's such an important point, Alex. These places are very different from each other, with different languages, foods, and weather. But Dan Buettner found that they shared a set of common habits, and he gave these habits a name too. He called them the Power Nine, which means 9 shared ways of living that seem to help people thrive. We'll talk about many of these 9 habits throughout the whole episode, so keep them in your mind.
And here's the part that genuinely surprised me when I first learned it. In these blue zones, nobody's actually trying to live to 100. They're not counting steps, they're not buying special pills, and they're not following strict diet plans. Instead, their long life is a kind of side effect, a natural result of how they live every single day. The healthy choice is simply the easy, normal choice in their world.
Yes, and I think that's the deepest lesson of all. Their environment makes the healthy path the natural path, almost without thinking. They walk because their village is built for walking, not because a doctor told them to exercise. They eat simple food because that's what's on the table, not because they're on a diet. And one more thing they all share is a strong sense of community, of belonging to other people.
That word, community, is going to come back again and again today. It means a group of people who know each other, help each other, and share life together. In the blue zones, older people are not pushed away or forgotten. They stay right in the middle of family life. And that connection, as we'll see later, might be one of the most powerful ingredients of all. But first, let's go to the kitchen, because food is a huge part of this story.
Oh, yes, let's talk about what's on their plates. Because if you look at what Blue Zone people eat, you find something both simple and surprising. It's not fancy, it's not expensive, and you can find most of it at any normal market. In fact, the most powerful longevity food in the world might already be in your kitchen. Let's find out what it is.
All right, Mia, I'm hungry now, so tell us the secret. What do people in the blue zones actually eat every day?
Well, the first big idea is that they eat mostly plants. Their meals are built around vegetables, fruits, whole grains, nuts, and especially beans. In fact, in many of these long living groups, the food is around 95% plant based. That means almost everything on the plate comes from the ground, not from an animal. They do eat meat sometimes, but often just a little. Maybe a few times a month. More like a special treat.
Let me jump in for a second to explain that phrase for our listeners. When we say plant-based, we mean food that comes mostly from plants, rather than from meat or animal products. It doesn't have to mean 100%. It just means plants are the main star of the meal. And Mia, you mentioned beans, which I know is a really big one in this topic. Tell us why beans get so much love from the longevity researchers.
Beans are honestly the superstar of this whole story. Dan Buettner often says that beans are the number one longevity food in the world. We're talking about all kinds of beans and lentils, which together we call legumes. In the blue zones, people eat about half a cup of beans every single day, which is not a lot. And beans are cheap, filling, and full of good things like fiber and protein, so they're easy to love.
I find that so encouraging because beans are available almost everywhere and they cost very little. You don't need a special expensive superfood from the other side of the world. You just need a humble pot of beans, which your grandmother probably already knew how to make. And I want to say something important here about how we should think about food. This is not about banning things or feeling guilty, right, Mia?
Exactly. And I'm so glad you said that because guilt is not the goal here. The idea is not to make a long list of foods you can never eat again. Instead, think about it the other way around. Just add more good things to your plate. Add a few more beans, a few more vegetables, a little more fruit, and let them slowly fill you up. When the good things grow, the less helpful things naturally shrink without any stress or strict rules.
That's such a kind and realistic way to look at it. And there's another habit from Okinawa that I find really wise and gentle. The people there have a little saying before they eat, which is hara hachibu. It's an old idea that reminds them to stop eating when they're about 80% full. So instead of eating until they're completely stuffed, they stop a little bit earlier.
I love harahachibu because it's so simple and so human. Our stomach actually needs a little time to tell our brain that we've had enough. So if you stop at around 80% full and wait a few minutes, you often feel just right. It's not about being hungry or punishing yourself, it's about eating calmly and listening to your body. You can try it tonight, slowly, with no pressure, and just notice how you feel.
That's a beautiful little practice to take home. There's one more thing worth mentioning about Blue Zone food, and it's about what they don't eat much of. They eat very little processed food, which means food made in factories with lots of added sugar, salt, and chemicals. Think of things like sugary drinks, packaged snacks, and ready-made meals in colorful plastic. In the blue zones, most food is fresh, simple, and close to how it grows in nature.
And again, we say this in moderation, which means we don't have to be perfect. A piece of cake at a birthday is part of a happy life, and nobody should feel bad about that. The phrase in moderation just means enjoying things in a balanced, sensible amount. Not every day, not in huge piles. So eat mostly plants, add your beans, stop at 80%, and keep treats as treats. It's gentle, it's doable, and honestly, it sounds quite delicious to me.
It really does. But food is only one part of the picture, and our bodies were made to move. So let's get up out of our chairs, at least in our minds, and talk about movement. And here's some good news for anyone who hates the gym. You might not need one at all. So, Mia, when people hear the word exercise, many of them feel a little tired already. They imagine a crowded gym, heavy weights, and running until they can't breathe. But that's not really the picture in the blue zones, is it?
Not at all. And this is honestly my favorite part to share. The people in these long living places almost never go to a gym, and many have never set foot in one. Instead, they do something researchers call moving naturally, which means staying gently active all day long. They walk to visit a friend, they work in the garden, they cook, they clean, and they climb the stairs. Their movement is woven into normal daily life, so they barely even notice they're exercising.
Let me explain that phrase a little for everyone. To move naturally means your body stays active through everyday activities, not through a special workout. So it could be walking to the market, carrying your shopping, sweeping the floor, or playing with your grandchildren. None of these feel like exercise, but together they keep the body strong and busy. And honestly, that sounds so much more pleasant than forcing yourself onto a treadmill.
It really is. And I think it removes a lot of fear around being active. You don't have to become an athlete. You just have to stop sitting still for so long. And that brings us to a word that's very important in modern health: sedentary. Being sedentary means sitting too much and moving too little, often for many hours every day. Sadly, many of us now sit at desks, in cars, and on sofas for most of our waking hours.
That's a real concern, and researchers talk about it a lot these days. Sitting for many hours without a break is linked to a higher risk of several health problems over time. Some people even say that sitting all day is one of the quiet challenges of modern life. But please don't panic if you have a desk job, because there's good news coming. The solution is not complicated, and it's something everyone can start doing today.
Exactly. The fix is wonderfully simple. One easy idea is to break up sitting, which means standing up and moving a little every 30 to 60 minutes. You don't need to do anything dramatic. Just stand up, stretch, walk to get some water, or look out the window. Even a couple of minutes of movement helps wake up your body and get your blood flowing again. So set a gentle reminder, and every half hour or so, just get up and move a little.
I do that myself, and it really does feel good to stand and stretch. And then there's walking, which might be the most underrated activity in the whole world. Walking is free, it's gentle, it's safe for most people, and you can do it almost anywhere. Research suggests that people who walk more tend to have a lower risk of many health problems. You don't need a perfect number. Yes, a number. But the idea of getting more daily steps is a wonderful goal.
Yes, and I love that you said you don't need a perfect number. Many people have heard about 10,000 daily steps, and that's a nice target if you can reach it. But even adding a short walk after dinner or walking instead of driving for small trips makes a real difference. The point is simply to move more than you did yesterday, little by little. Daily steps are like small deposits in your health bank, and they slowly add up to something big.
That's a lovely way to picture it. So let's gather these gentle ideas together for our listeners. Move naturally through your normal day, walk whenever you can, and don't sit for hours without a break. You don't need special clothes, a membership, or any money at all. You just need to keep your body friendly with movement, the way it was always meant to be.
Beautifully said, Alex. And after a day full of gentle movement, our body needs something just as important. It needs rest, real rest, the kind that repairs us from the inside. And this is something so many busy people get wrong. So let's talk about sleep.
Sleep is a topic I think we should talk about more often, Mia, because in our busy world, a lot of people treat sleep like it's a waste of time. They feel proud of sleeping only 4 or 5 hours, as if being tired means they work harder. But that idea is really the wrong way around, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And I wish more people understood this. Sleep is not lazy time. Sleep is repair time for your whole body and mind. While you sleep, your body fixes tiny damage, your brain organizes memories, and your energy is restored. So sleep isn't the opposite of being productive. It's actually the foundation that makes everything else possible. When you sleep well, you think better, you feel better, and you make healthier choices the next day.
That's such an important shift in how we see it. So, how much sleep do we actually need to get these wonderful repairs done? I know the answer is different for every person, but is there a general guide?
There is, and the general guide is fairly simple to remember. For most adults, research suggests that about 7 to 8 hours of sleep each night is best. Some people feel great with a little less, and some need a little more, and that's perfectly normal. But if you're sleeping only 4 or 5 hours most nights, your body probably isn't getting enough repair time. The goal is to get enough sleep regularly, so you wake up feeling rested rather than dragging yourself out of bed.
And here's something that surprised me when I first learned it. It's not only about the total number of hours, it's also about being regular. Tell everyone about that, Mia, because I think it's a game changer for a lot of people.
Yes, this is honestly one of the most useful things I've ever learned about sleep. Your sleep schedule, which means the times you go to bed and wake up, matters a great deal. Research suggests that having a regular schedule may matter even more than the total hours you sleep. So, going to bed and waking up at roughly the same time every day, even on weekends, is a powerful habit. Your body has an inner clock, and it loves a steady routine, just like a child loves a bedtime story at the same hour.
I find that so freeing, because keeping a regular time feels easier than chasing a perfect number of hours. And good sleep does much more than just make us feel awake, doesn't it?
Oh, it does so much more. Good regular sleep is linked to a healthier heart and a sharper, more protected brain. When we don't sleep enough over a long time, it can affect our mood, our memory, and our overall health. So when you protect your sleep, you're really protecting two of your most precious organs, your heart and your mind. That's a wonderful reason to treat bedtime with a little more respect and kindness.
It truly is. So let's give our listeners a few gentle tips to actually sleep better tonight. One word I love here is the idea of winding down, which means slowing yourself down before bed. Instead of jumping straight from a bright phone screen into bed, give yourself 30 quiet minutes to relax. You might dim the lights, read a few pages, or take a warm shower and let your body know it's time to rest.
Yes, winding down is like gently landing a plane instead of crashing it. Try to keep your bedroom dark, quiet, and a little cool, because those things help your body drift off. And if you can, put the phone away a bit earlier, since those bright screens can trick your brain into staying awake. Do this most nights, and slowly you'll start to feel truly well rested, which is a beautiful feeling. Being well rested means waking up with energy, a clear mind, and a smile, ready for the day.
That sounds wonderful and so achievable. So we've talked about food, movement, and sleep, which all care for the body. But there's another part of us that needs just as much care: our mind, our feelings, and our reason for getting up in the morning. Let's talk about that next.
This chapter is very close to my heart, Alex, because we can eat well, move well, and sleep well, but if our mind is full of stress, something is still missing. In the blue zones, people seem to carry less stress, even though their lives are not always easy. They face hard times like everyone does, but they have gentle ways to handle the weight of life. And one of their biggest secrets is something that gives their whole life direction.
I think I know what you're going to say, and it's one of my favorite ideas in the world. In Okinawa, the Japanese have a beautiful word for this, don't they?
They do, and the word is ikigai. Ikigai roughly means your reason to wake up in the morning, the thing that gives your day meaning. It might be caring for your grandchildren, tending your garden, teaching, painting, or helping your neighbors. It doesn't have to be big or famous, it just has to matter to you and pull you gently out of bed. The people in these communities can usually tell you, very clearly, why their life has purpose.
Let me underline that phrase for everyone, because it's so important. A sense of purpose means feeling that your life has meaning and that what you do matters. It's that warm feeling that someone needs you or that you have something worthwhile to do today. And this isn't just a nice feeling. It actually seems to affect our health. Mia, I believe there's even research on this, isn't there?
Yes, and the research is genuinely moving. In a large study in Japan, scientists followed many people over many years. They found that people who reported a strong sense of purpose tended to have a lower risk of dying early. Of course, no single thing is magic, and many factors are involved, so we hold this gently. But it really does suggest that having a reason to wake up is good not only for the heart's feelings, but for the body too.
That's such a hopeful thought, and it's available to everyone at any age. You're never too old, and it's never too late to find or rediscover your purpose. And alongside purpose, the blue zones also have lovely ways to slow down and manage stress, because stress itself isn't the enemy. We all feel it, and a little of it is normal. The real question is what we do with it day after day.
Exactly. And they have a wonderful habit for this called downshifting. To downshift means to slow down on purpose every single day to release the pressure that builds up inside. In Okinawa, people take a quiet moment to remember their ancestors, while in Ikaria, they enjoy long, slow afternoons. In Sardinia, they pause for a relaxed chat with friends. And in Loma Linda, many people rest and pray. The exact ritual is different, but the idea is the same. Build small moments of calm into your normal day.
I love that it's daily, not something you save for one long holiday a year. So for our listeners, downshifting could be very simple and personal. It might be a short nap in the afternoon, a few minutes of quiet prayer, or a slow cup of tea with no phone. It could be a gentle walk in nature, some deep breathing, or simply sitting in silence for a little while. The goal is to let your nervous system rest, so the stress of the day doesn't pile up year after year.
Yes, and learning to manage stress in healthy ways is one of the kindest things you can do for yourself. To manage stress means to find calm, helpful ways to deal with life's pressures instead of letting them crush you. And I want to add one gentle reminder here, because we always want to be honest. If you ever feel that sadness or worry is very heavy and won't lift, please reach out and talk to a doctor. There is no shame in that at all. Taking care of your mind is just as important as taking care of your body.
Thank you for saying that, Mia. It's so important. So let's hold these ideas close. Find your reason to wake up and slow down a little every day. A calm mind and a meaningful life are not luxuries. They're a real part of living long and well. And this leads us perfectly into our final chapter, which might be the most powerful of all. Because the people we love are not just nice to have. They may be one of the great keys to a long life.
Oh, Alex, I've been looking forward to this chapter the whole episode. Because in a way, it ties back to our last conversation about relationships, which so many of you enjoyed. And here's the amazing thing. The research shows again and again strong social connection, which simply means close, warm relationships with other people, is linked to living longer. In fact, some researchers say it may be about as powerful for your health as not smoking.
That comparison always stops me in my tracks. We all know that not smoking is wonderful for the body, that's no surprise at all. But to think that our friendships and family bonds might be just as powerful, that's remarkable. It tells us that loneliness is not only a sad feeling, it can actually affect our physical health. So staying connected to others isn't a small extra. It's right at the center of a long, healthy life.
Yes, and let's gently explain that other side too. Loneliness means feeling alone and disconnected, as if no one is really close to you. And research suggests that long term loneliness can raise the risk of several health problems over time. On the other side, there is belonging, which means feeling that you're part of a group that cares about you. The wonderful news is that belonging is something we can build step by step with the people around us.
And the Blue Zones show us such a beautiful example of this belonging. In Okinawa, they have something called a moai, which is just lovely. A moai is a small group of friends who stay together for their whole lives, sometimes from childhood. They meet regularly, they share their joys and their troubles, and they support each other through everything. So when life gets hard, no one in a moai ever has to face it completely alone.
Imagine having that a circle of friends who walk beside you for 80 or 90 years. They celebrate your good days, they sit with you on your hard days, and they never let you drift away. And in these communities, there's another beautiful thing about how they treat their older members. Older people are not separated or forgotten. They stay included, right in the heart of family and village life. They're respected, they're needed, and they're surrounded by people, which keeps their spirit and their health strong.
That's the kind of world I think we'd all love to live in. And here's the gentle challenge for all of us listening today. We can't move to Okinawa tomorrow, but we can build our own little moai right where we are. We can reach out to people, which means making the first move to connect, even with a simple message or call. A short phone call to an old friend or a visit to a lonely neighbor can mean so much more than we realize.
Yes, please, reach out to someone this week. Alex is so right. Call the friend you keep meaning to call or sit a little longer at the table with your family tonight. These small acts of connection are not just kind, they are quietly building a longer, healthier life for everyone involved. And that brings us, gently, to the end of our journey today. So let me try to gather everything together into one simple, warm picture.
Please do, Mia. I'd love that.
Here is the beautiful truth of everything we learned today. You don't need a magic pill, an expensive program, or some secret that only a few people know. You just need to move a little all day, eat mostly plants, and sleep well and regularly. You need to slow down sometimes, keep a reason to wake up, and stay close to the people you love. None of these are hard. None of these are expensive. And all of them are within your reach starting today.
That's such a warm and hopeful place to end, and it leaves me smiling. Longevity isn't really about chasing years. It's about filling your days with good food, gentle movement, rest, purpose, and love. And remember, dear listeners, everything we shared is general healthy living supported by research, not a treatment plan. So if you have a real health concern, always talk to your doctor first, because you matter. Thank you so much for spending this time with us in our English Corner.
Thank you truly from both of us for listening so warmly. We hope you walk away today feeling calm, hopeful, and a little more in control of your own health. Take one small step this week, just one, and be kind to yourself along the way. Keep practicing your English, keep caring for your body, and keep close to the people who love you. Until next time, take good care of yourself, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone, and see you next time.